Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast. I'm your host and beat writer, Brock Vieira. We are on location from Chicago, Illinois, here at beautiful Soldier Field, taking this video in a random box, which I must say is very nice. Beautiful view of the snow-covered field, and we're here to talk about what happened tonight. The Rams, of course, came in with a 20-17 victory in overtime against the Chicago Bears to wrap up the divisional round. The Rams will be playing the Seahawks in Seattle next week for the NFC Championship game. If the Rams win that contest, of course, it will be the third Super Bowl appearance for Sean McVay, the second appearance for Matthew Stafford, and for a lot of these guys like Devontae Adams or Puka Nacua, regardless of how long they've been in the league, there's always that want to go to your first, and that's why that matchup will be so fun to cover. But that is business for tomorrow. Let's talk about what happened tonight with this Bears game. The Rams weren't good. The Rams had a lack of execution. They were sloppy in their offensive operation. They lacked a killer edge. And despite all of that, they were still able to win. I think the first thing you need to do is give credit to the defense secondary for sticking in the fight. Unfortunately, they are the easiest position group to attack or criticize or demand more from because they are the group that was left with nothing in this offseason. You got to remember, there was no new defensive backs added to this team. Linebackers, you got Nate Lavin. Defensive line, Brian Punaford. Offensive line, you brought back Coleman Shelton, right? Wide receiver, you bring in Devontae Adams. Tight end room, you draft Terrence Ferguson. So there's been massive improvement all over the field except for the DB. You were sticking with guys like Cam Curl and Cam Kitchens, Quentin Lake, Kobe Durant, Emmanuel Forbes for the portion that he was in, right? You had a guy like Roger McCreary come in, right? Darius Will, whomever. And despite the lack of big names or the issues with play in the past or this or that, when asked to step up tonight against a Ben Johnson offense, against a guy like Caleb Williams who can scramble around and make teams pay with passes downfield, right? It's very easy to lose sight on what's important for each play, right? Being disciplined in your approach, not committing penalties, not allowing when Williams scrambles the receiver to get behind you or to get away from you. And for the most part, they contained the Bears offense. Outside of a fluky play, of course, at the end of the fourth quarter, where that Caleb Williams scrambled back 50 yards and tossed it to the end zone to Cole Kmet, where there might have been a push off, whatever, however you want to describe it. Even though that play itself cannot happen for the Rams, if they don't score that play, the Bears are stuck with 10 points. So it took a fluky circus play just to get to 17. That speaks volumes. Of course, the Bears didn't do themselves any favors. They were also very sloppy in their operation. I mean, Caleb Williams to come out that game. Ben Johnson dialed up a beautiful script. And Williams just missed Rome Odunze one time. And then, a few plays later, Kobe Durant picks up his first interception. That's all it takes. But the narrowing of the margins that the Rams secondary did cannot be understated. And then for them to come up again for Cam Curl to make that critical interception in overtime, in sudden death overtime, right? Because if he doesn't get an interception, I don't think the Rams get the ball back. I think that the Bears somehow find a way to get into field goal range. I think Carlos Santos sends Chicago to the NFC Championship game. So they deserve their praise. Kobe Durant, 2 interceptions. He has now recorded 4 interceptions in his last 4 playoff games, 3 interceptions on this postseason. Truly remarkable stuff. He's a guy that's going to be up for a contract, and I think he's going to be a guy that the Rams are going to have to really consider. Coming into the season, I would say it's a 50-50 at best that Durant got re-signed. I think the odds have weighed heavily into his favor, depending on what he wants in negotiations and, of course, what the Rams desire. But I think there's a lot of reasons to make something happen with Durant. And the good thing is, though, while there is a need for a straight-up number 1 corner, there is also a need for 2 number 2s. Durant is one of the best number 2 corners in the NFL, and he can kind of double as a number 1 at times. So it can be Emmanuel Forbes, and in a 3-man rotation, That's exactly what you want. That's exactly what you desire. So it will be interesting to see how they move on with Durant and also Cam Curl's a free agent as well. He's a player that's really hit his peaks coming up to Los Angeles. Like I said, I think he's another guy that there's some gray area for negotiations, but of course, it all depends on what both guys want. Moving forward, let's start with the bad. The offense. The offense was just horrendous. You want to put it on Matthew Stafford because he's the easy target, and he does deserve blame. He even said it himself. He was not in a good rhythm tonight, and it was clear as day. He was making the same types of mistakes that you saw in Atlanta that doomed the Rams in that game. He was making foolish decisions. He was forcing balls into double coverage. He looked like he was not never comfortable all night. And of course, you don't expect him to be comfortable. But I think that the Rams' offensive operation didn't do itself any favors by going forward with this pass first, strategy while making Tutu Atwell inactive. Until we hear more information about what happened with Tutu Atwell and him being inactive, it's a healthy scratch. So you're gonna go with a pass first approach, but take away the one guy who can manufacture passing lanes through his natural ability. Whether or not Tutu Atwell will get any targets is irrelevant. He has the speed to be able to stretch a defense horizontally and vertically, and he's made plays this season so that the defense has to respect him. I think if you have a speed threat like Atwell on the field, you don't see the Bears blitz as much as they did. You don't see some of the creative, exotic looks that they presented because you can get the ball out Tutu quickly and Tutu in space against the snow. I'll take one slip and it's six. If not, he just has a straight open lane to the end zone. So massive letdown over there. You also wonder where was 13 personnel? Did Davis Allen do something that made the Rams think that he wasn't going to be an effective threat in this game? What did Terrence Ferguson do that made them think he was going to be such a threat that they could go out and run 11 personnel and 12 personnel and try and target him up and down while understanding that because you don't have him attached to the line of scrimmage, at best you can have 6-man protection against a team that is dialing up blitzes left and right. And then you weren't even able to get the ball out to Ferguson. Why wasn't Tyler Higbee utilized more? He seems like the perfect type of player based off his history, his body type, and, just his connection with Matthew Stafford for this type of weather. Quick, concise passes to a big target is a perfect way to move the football, especially if you're going with a pass-first operation. And then lastly, why was it a pass-first operation? I can understand, and some of you spoke about it by saying that basically from certain looks that they saw, and they felt like this was going to be the most effective way to go about that. Okay, great. Okay, that's fair enough. But it wasn't working. Yes, you did score a touchdown the first drive, but there was clear issues that compounded itself throughout the game. Repeatedly, 3 and outs. 5 plays, but the only reason it wasn't a 3-and-out because one play was a penalty on the Bears for 5 yards that reset the chains, and we went 3-and-out right after that. Right? It's just punting over and over and over. And the Rams were very fortunate they didn't have costly turnovers. Like I said, Stafford threw the ball in double coverage. He had that fumble near his own goal line that he was able to jump on. So many things went wrong. Why didn't the Rams go back to a run-first approach? Why didn't they mix things up? Why didn't they go at 13? And then you can ask the broad general questions. Why aren't they able to go into formations at the pistol where they get the ball out quick while still maintaining central alignment so that they can run halfback dive plays if they wish to do so? Why don't they have situations or packages that the Bears do where they go into 13 personnel, but one of them is an offensive lineman, right, or a tackle or something to try and get some movement on the line of scrimmage? Again, why didn't they go with 13 personnel? Right, having Parkinson and Higbee and Ferguson on the field so that when the Bears have to match them defensively, they're looking at, okay, well, the Rams are sending out 3 tight ends. I got to bring in my guys so that if I bring in some of my lighter guys, my more joker-like players, dime backers, whatever, the Rams are automatically going to have a physical advantage, which could allow them to utilize their run a little bit more. Or if the Bears want to match with linebackers, well, hey, now we have 3 guys that catch the ball who can reroute your guys, especially a guy like Terrence Ferguson, who's a matchup nightmare wherever you put him. That's going to put Dennis Allen in a tough spot. And he's not going to be wanting to call the blitzes that he calls when you have that situation. And then you start looking at some of the critical offensive decisions in this game. And there's so many to go over, but I'm just going to highlight a few. because they were pivotal in the end. 7 seconds left to go before the 2-minute warning. The Rams are at third down, third and long, but the Bears at this point, I believe, have burned 2 timeouts. So with 7 seconds left, if the Rams are able to somehow pick up a first down, it's game, essentially. It wouldn't be game for sure because the Bears called timeout, and then if you run out 40 seconds for the next 2, that's going to take off 80 seconds, which comes out to approximately 1 minute, 20 seconds, so it depends on what. But regardless of what you want to do now, that means the Bears are going to get the ball back with like 38 seconds at no timeouts. That's a perfect situation. Instead, the Rams decide to run the ball at Kyren Williams that only kills 7 seconds, gives them no shot to pick up the first down. I understand the efforts of ball security, especially since the Bears are able to dial up so many effective pass rush designs or packages or blitzes or whatever you want to call it, because they were all over Stafford all night. But there's also no reason why you can't have 3 eligible receivers going downfield, 7 men in protection, and Matthew Stafford just sitting there, right? Because if you take a deep shot to Devontae Adams or Puka Nacua or Konata Nuffield or Jordan Wilmington or whomever, there's 3 possibilities that are going to happen, especially if you're able to dial a play that puts the ball not in harm's way for an interception and then return. Because that's a disaster scenario. It's either going to be an incompletion or an interception, which doesn't really hurt you as long as the ball doesn't get returned. It's going to be a completion, which sets up the win, or it's going to be a penalty, which also sets up the win. Either way, within that entire play or those entire scenarios, 7 seconds burns off the clock. So you're going to have the same result anyway. If you're so afraid of Stafford creating turnovers, why are you not afraid of him doing that the rest of the game? So that's kind of a big question right there. And then obviously the touchdown happens with the Bears. The Browns are very lucky. The Bears didn't go for 2 in that scenario. Then you go to overtime. So you went from putting the ball in Stafford's hands to now in the critical moments where take it out of it. Okay, no problem. So you run 2 run plays, you get to 3rd and 1. You only need 1 yard to move the chains. And if you move the chains in that scenario, you're almost at midfield. That means that you're about to give your MVP caliber quarterback the ball at midfield in a situation where he always dials in. But instead, you just have to run the ball. Not a problem. Any inside run, some type of power attack, it's probably going to get you the first down. And realistically, if you think that you're a Super Bowl caliber team and you need 1 yard in a must-have it situation and you're not able to pick up that 1 yard, it speaks volumes about your ability to win a Super Bowl. But the Rams didn't even give their offensive line a chance to show off the physicality because instead they ran this like halfback pitch to Blake Corum that was like you put the ball in his hands with like 5 yards in the backfield when you're already at 3rd and 1. So now he has to make a move and then another move with 11 inbounding Bears defenders collapsing on him at all at one time. What are you doing in that situation? And obviously, you can Monday morning quarterback it all you want. But the reason why I'm so confused about that move is because that was the exact same play McVay called in week 1 against the Texans with Kyren Williams on the goal line. I believe it was 4th and goal. At the 2 or the 1, they ended up pitching it. Williams had the ball like 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He had to cut back in to then score. And then in the presser after that game, McVay said that was a bad call. It shouldn't have happened. It should have happened. Okay, well, if it shouldn't have happened then, how can it happen now in overtime? How is that? How can that happen? And then you are able to move the ball into position for the field goal to end the game. I understand I want to walk it off, so you threw the goal line fade to Parkinson. I think that had Stafford been able to look back at Devontae Adams and throw the ball, it would have been blouses right there. But you weren't able to. Yet you took another shot. To me, in that situation, you took your shot. You need to set Harrison Mevis up for the field goal. Obviously, Mevis nailed it, but I think the Rams didn't do themselves any favors by continuing to go to the air in a situation that clearly required the Rams to get as much yards as you can, and then you let your accurate kicker go and win it. The biggest question for me and why I'm just perplexed at the offensive operation is this. You have an offensive-minded head coach, offensive guru head coach, Sean McVay. You have a smart offensive coordinator in Mike LaFleur who's getting multiple head coaching looks. You have a smart offensive-minded passing coordinator in Nate Shieldhouse, who's also getting head coaching looks. That's potentially 3 offensive-minded head coaches in one room, and this is what happened. If the Rams want to win in Seattle, whatever happened tonight cannot happen again next week, or it's not even going to be close. The Seahawks are going to blow them out. Mike McDonald is going to look at this film tonight and salivate over all the opportunities the Rams allowed Chicago to have targeting the quarterback. The lack of ability for the Rams to push the ball downfield. They're going to be salivating of the lack of a consistent running game. And most importantly, the continuous pass calls on short yardage situations, or just the lack of power football. McDonald's probably thinking to himself, I don't got to stack the interior of the line. I'll let my big boys up front do what they do. I'll make sure my flanks are covered. Try and beat me deep, because I got some of the best defensive backs in all of football. That's daunting when you say it like that. So, if the Seahawks have the answers, I think it's time for the Rams to change the question. And they need to change the question, because they didn't tonight, and it almost costed them their season. But, like most things this season, you can have as much criticisms of the Rams as you want. You can have as many criticisms of Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, the staff, the players, whatever you want to say negatively about them. They find a way to win. And that's all that matters in this situation. And it kind of goes back into the culture of why they're able to have the night that they had and still come out victorious. It's because they always have that mindset, one play at a time, one day at a time, one thing at a time. And when you're able to do that, you're able to understand the current situation is not as big as you might think. The obstacles are able to be overcome. And no matter if you fail or if you succeed, there's always a next play until there isn't. So as long as you get that next play, hey, lock in, focus up. Giving up that big touchdown to Cole Kmet at the end of the game, terrible, potentially devastating. But when the Bears hit the field goal, you realize, wait a second, we got another play. And that's why the Rams are able to come out with this one. Like I said, a lot to clean up. I think there's the criticism is fair, but would you really want to bet against this team at this point, against this opponent in Seattle? I wouldn't, based on what I've seen so far. But hey, at the end of the day, games come down to what's done on the field, not what's written on paper. And I can't wait to write the narrative of that game once we're able to get to next Sunday. Until next time, this has been the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast. I'm your host, and beat writer Brock Bureau, and we'll catch y'all later. Take care.